my god, that is so neato.
Everyone has that one game that changes their whole perspective on gaming. That one game that changes their whole view on life, or even changes their trajectory of their future. For me, that game was Catherine, released in 2011. At the time, very small YouTuber known as The Rad Brad, not so small time anymore. I remember him uploading the very first part in the middle of his Dead Rising walkthrough, and from the very first video, I was hooked. He played through the entire game, and I was there with him with my bag of chips, Takis to be specifically, and I was completely locked in. I fell in love with its mature story, the twists and turns it took, the characters, and its overall somber yet hopeful vibe. And even though I already knew the story from watching the Rad Brad playing through the entire game, I knew that I had to experience the game for myself. Because it wasn't about the gameplay and the puzzles, it was more about the experience. At least to me. The story, the characters, the music, the amazing music. I'm getting ahead of myself. It all hit differently. Hit different than any other game that I had played up until that point. It made me feel things I hadn't expected to feel, and opened my eyes to the kind of storytelling that games could offer. But there was one small problem. I was a kid at the time. I was around 11 or 12 years old when the game came out, and let me tell you something. Catherine is a very mature game, far from the games I was used to playing or playing at the time. When I say that Catherine is a mature game, what I mean by that is that the story really cannot be appreciated until you're really an adult. More on that later, but to put it in perspective, up until that point, the only M-rated games that I was playing at the time was Call of Duty and Battlefield, which was more about action and multiplayer fun than storytelling and themes. Unless we're talking about Black Ops 1, because the campaign and story is god tier. But anyway, convincing my parents to buy the game was a complete challenge, especially with that infamous and promiscuous cover art for the PS3 version of the game, because that's the console I had at the time. Right out the gate, my parents definitely raised some eyebrows, but after enough convincing, they caved in and bought me the game. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Now, going back to what I was saying about fully appreciating the game as an adult, as an 11-year-old, I really didn't fully understand the themes of the game's story. Concepts like commitment, infidelity, and the fear of adulthood completely went over my head. But something about Catherine still spoke to me, even as a young child. And yes, 11 is young. I know I was barely a teenager, but I still consider that very young. Even though I wasn't in Vincent's position, nowhere near it, I still found him to be a very captivating character. His struggles felt real, and I couldn't help but feel bad for him as he struggled to navigate through the chaos of his life. And it wasn't just Vincent. The entire cast of characters was memorable. Every night at the Stray Sheep bar felt like you were catching up with old friends. Even though I've never experienced that kind of environment before. Again, I was 11. I had no idea what it was like to go to a bar, having deep conversations over drinks, or drown my worries in alcohol. Still don't, I hope. But that didn't stop my lame ass from pouring a glass of sweet tea and mimic the way Vincent was drinking his drink at the bar. And then of course there was the music. The music in this game is something I still listen to this day. Catherine's soundtrack was unlike anything I had ever heard before. The mix of jazz, eerie ambiance, and emotional piano tracks made the overall game feel more immersive. The music in the Stray Sheep bar in particular was not only my favorite, but both somber and comforting. It made the world feel alive and real in a way that I hadn't experienced before in gaming. So for the people that don't know what Catherine is about, let me break it down for you. At its core, Catherine is a psychological thriller revolving around a love triangle, mixed with surreal horror and deep philosophical themes. The game follows Vincent Brooks, a 32-year-old man stuck in a stagnant relationship with his longtime girlfriend Catherine with a K. She's responsible, career-driven, and a complete baddie. Attaboy Vince. Catherine wants Vincent to settle down and marry her, but Vincent is unsure about commitment, adulthood, and his overall future. He finds himself torn when he meets Catherine with a C, a mysterious, seductive woman who seems to embody freedom and excitement. And again, a complete and utter baddie. I mean, look at her. The universe wanted Vincent to fold. They had no type of faith in him. Things take a dark turn when Vincent realizes he's been unknowingly cheating on Catherine with a K with Catherine with a C. At the same time, he starts having terrifying nightmares where he and other men are forced to climb these massive towers or face death. These nightmares aren't just bad dreams. Men who fail to survive them die in real life. As Vincent struggles to navigate his double life, he's also unknowingly fighting for his survival. The game introduces a cast of memorable characters, from Vincent's close group of friends at the Stray Sheep Bar to various patrons who are unknowingly experiencing the same nightmares as Vincent. Each character represents different perspectives on relationships, marriage, and personal growth. Some fear commitment, while others struggle with their own demons, and a few serve as cautionary tales of what happens when people refuse to change. Throughout the game, the choices you make will influence Vincent's fate and the ending of the game. The multiple endings ensure that no two playthroughs feel exactly the same, giving players control over how Vincent's story unfolds. Not gonna lie guys, I don't know how I just summarized that whole game without spoiling a single plot thread, so y'all make sure to like the video just for that alone. Catherine is mixing two genres that you wouldn't expect to, work so well together, and that it's a puzzle game and also a dating simulator. Unlike the fast-paced action of Call of Duty or the cinematic platformer of Uncharted that I was used to playing, Catherine forced me to think strategically and act quickly under pressure. The main gameplay takes place in Vincent's nightmares, where he is forced to climb a massive tower of blocks to survive. This wasn't just any puzzle game. It was intense, fast-paced, and brutally difficult even on normal difficulty. Every night, new mechanics are introduced to make each climb more challenging than the night before. Ice blocks made you slide, heavy blocks slowed you down, spike tracks could instantly kill you. No two climbs felt the same, and I had to constantly rethink my strategy as I was climbing higher and higher. And as frustrating as some of these levels were, the satisfaction of finally reaching to the top was all worth it. And again, it wasn't just about beating the level, it was about survival. The music that plays at the end of each level also makes every victory very important. And from Vincent's perspective, every climb was a life or death situation, and that feeling of urgency made each puzzle more than just a challenge. It made it part of the story. But Catherine wasn't just about the nightmares. The time spent at the Stray Sheep Bar played just as big of a role in the gameplay. Here, you could talk to other patrons, answer text messages, and even drink with your buddies. By the way, if you get Vincent drunk, you actually get to run faster in the nightmares, so go crazy. These moments of downtime gave me a chance to breathe after a stressful puzzle section. I'm telling you guys, this game gets really hard as you progress further and further into the story. While you're also at the bar, you can deepen your connections to the characters in the world, especially with the smooth ass song that plays in the background, the song that I still listen to this day. After every intense climb in Vincent's nightmares, players arrive at a brief moment of relief, a moment where you could take a second, and these sections are known as landings. These areas serve as a pit stop before the next tower you have to climb, but they're more than just a break. I believe they're a crucial part in Catherine's world building. At first, it seems like the landings are simply places where Vincent encounters other lost souls trying to survive the nightmares, but as I played, I realized something that completely changed how I viewed the game. The people trapped in these nightmares were the same people Vincent interacted with at the bar. This realization made me care about them even more and made me want to even play the game a second time. It wasn't just about surviving for Vincent. I could also help the others escape their fate by constantly checking in on them both in the nightmares and in real life. It makes talking to them at the bar very important. This added a deeper layer of immersion to the game. Throughout the story, the news on the TV talks about mysterious deaths occurring in the real world, and connecting those deaths to the people that I meet, not only in the bar but in the nightmares, made everything feel even more unsettling. Catherine wasn't just about the personal journey for Vincent. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is, but it was also a fight for survival that affected everyone around him. I do want to also add that these landings, these sections, also had some of the most creepiest music, but also addicting. They were low-key bangers, I'm not gonna lie, the whole soundtrack is amazing. But the specific song that plays in these landings further enhances the eerie, dreamlike atmosphere. And before you want to move on to the next tower, you have to reach the end of the landing where you have to enter a confessional booth. Whenever you enter a confessional booth, you will be asked a specific question. And these questions weren't throwaway questions. They actually influenced this mysterious meter that you will start noticing throughout your time playing the game. This meter that I have on screen shifted between red, which meant freedom, and blue, which means order. This was directly tied to the game's multiple endings. Every choice that I made, including how I answered the questions in the confessional booth, how I responded to text message, and just from overall conversations with other patrons, pushed Vincent closer to one fate or the other. At the time, I didn't realize how much my choices mattered, but seeing the consequences play out made me want to replay the game and explore different outcomes. In the original game, there are 8 endings, with the remastered, or I guess repackaged version, Full Body, adding another 3 to 11 endings. So if you're curious like me to see how you can make Vincent end up by the end of the game, you definitely want to check it out, or you can just look up a YouTube video where it has all the endings listed for you. But you'll definitely be entertained no matter what ending you get, because there are some funny ones, I'm not gonna lie. Looking back, even though I didn't fully grasp Catherine's deeper themes back when I was watching with the Rad Brad, or when I played it for the first time as a kid, the struggles of adulthood, the fear of commitment, the consequences of choices, those were things I hadn't experienced yet. But even then, something about the game really resonated with me. The storytelling, the atmosphere, the music, and the intensity of the gameplay left a lasting impression on me that I still think about to this day. And as I got older and revisiting the game with, again, the repackaged version of Catherine Full Body, I gained a new appreciation of how unique and bold that this game was. I think this game was a little bit ahead of its time back in 2011. It's a game that doesn't hold your hands in its challenging gameplay and moral dilemmas it presents. It forces players to reflect on their own values and choices, making each decision very meaningful. Along with changing my whole perspective on life, Catherine also introduced me to the developer Atlas, a studio that would later on create another game that would impact me very personally, Persona 5, but that's a video for another day. It opened the door for me to experience more story-driven games that weren't just about action or reflexes, but about deep and thought-provoking narratives. In the end, Catherine wasn't just another game that I played. It was an eye-opener. It changed how I view storytelling in games and proved that video games could explore complex and mature themes in ways that few other mediums could. It was intense, it was addicting, and you're gonna get tired of me saying this, it left a lasting impact on me that I still feel today. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you guys for watching. I love this game, guys, like I truly do, and I really want more people to check it out, as I do feel like it's very underrated, not only in gaming, but in Atlas's library of games that they've made. It doesn't get brought up enough in the conversation of Atlas's best games. I also want to thank you guys on the support on my last video. Not much in the grand scope of things, but the fact that some of you left a like and commented on my video really means a lot, so thank you so much. If you like videos like these, definitely leave a like and comment, as it does help out in the mysterious YouTube algorithm. And if you really like what I have to offer, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one. Now, if you excuse me, I need to catch up on some sleep, and hopefully I don't give myself a nightmare.